it's busy feeding on. It's got a kill of some sort, so it seems everybody is having a feast today. Got something too. Now, I believe, unfortunately, we broke up, so for those of you that missed it, it is a Verreaux eagle owl, which is the largest owl species that we get here. It's a very beautiful individual. It's got these pink eyelids, and really nice grey coloration. The owl's looking over its shoulder because the elephants are a bit low, so the elephants are starting to move into this area. Seb, I think let's go forward a little bit more because we might actually see what it's eating a bit better from the... So Byron's going to be very jealous because he loves these owls and he's always looking for owls, and to see one right out in the open at this proximity and to be able to see what it's actually got, I think that's just part of the bark. Seb. There we go. So you can hear the grey go-away birds also going crazy. They're not very happy about a eagle owl that is here in the midst of their jackalberry, which is fruiting. They're not happy about that at all. But I really don't know what it's eating at the moment. It looks like some sort of bird, maybe. Demonique, you say it looks so fluffy. Well, they are quite fluffy. Birds in general are very fluffy animals. They've got a lot of... So it is another bird. I just can't see what kind of bird it is. But they are very fluffy animals, and they need lots of fur and feathers to be able to actually stay nice and warm. Listen to this. So that's the grey go-away birds going crazy. They're not happy at all. Our owl looks completely unfazed by it. You can also see that there's ants crawling around on the kill. So Seb was showing you very nicely there that there are ants. And there we go. Look at this. How cool is this, guys? This is not something we see every day at all. I can't actually remember the last time we had an owl with a kill on camera. And look at how it uses that big recurved beak to tear off chunks of flesh. Wow. This is really cool. And very special. It's not something we're going to see every day, that's for sure. It was quite a big chunk. Wow. I wonder where the mate is. Generally they're in pairs together, so there should be another one somewhere around here. Maybe the other one's sitting higher up in the tree. Or this one is being a little glutton and is feeding all by itself. You can see, look, it turns its head when it hears the elephants behind it. That's so cool. But I still can't make out what kind of bird it is. I'm not 100% sure. It looks like a young bird. I wonder if it hasn't grabbed a chick off one of the nests. We know that there's a few raptors that are nesting at the moment, and maybe with that kill, you know, vultures and birds of prey might have gone in that direction, and they've gone and grabbed it, because it looks like quite a sort of whitish feathering, which looks more like a juvenile or a very small bird that has not yet got its adult plumage, because I don't recognize any of that plumage at all. And there's lots of down feathers there, big fluffy white feathers, or the down feathers, which chicks often have just to stay nice and warm and to be able to look after themselves, and so that they don't freeze, especially in these winter months. So I'm not 100% sure what it is, but that beak must be so powerful, because I can actually hear the bones breaking as it turns its head. This is very special. Those feathers and all. And what you'll find with owls, they have a very specialized digestive system. So before I get into that, Francis, you're wondering if it's normal for owls to be awake during the day. Yes, Francis, it is. Owls do spend a majority of their time working around at night, but if there's an opportunity to hunt during the day, they will take it. And you'll find like the pearl-spotted owlets and barred owlets are actually more active around sunset and sunrise than they are even during the middle of the night. So it is not uncommon to see this. I have seen Verreaux eagle owls on multitude of kills during the day. They do actively hunt, and if there's an opportunity, they're going to take it. So this must have been a young bird in a nest, and the owl took its opportunity and grabbed it. But I was talking about their digestive system, so you'll see that this owl will be able to eat the feathers and varying bones and all kinds of parts of that bird. And what will happen is, as it swallows, it will go into its crop, and that crop will massage those bones and those feathers, and it will basically get rid of all of the bits of meat on it. Once that meat is separated, it then swallows the meat down into the proper stomach, and then that pellet starts to form, and the bones and feathers all get mulched together and a little pellet. And then what you'll find is this owl will then regurgitate that pellet a little bit later. So after it's consumed and it's got all of that stuff that it's not able to digest, a little pellet will be regurgitated. And if you come into this area over the next few days and you walk around, you might actually find the pellet just below this tree somewhere, which will be a really cool thing to do. I'm sure Byron will have some time to have a look around this area next week, and maybe he does find the pellet. But if we have a look in the background, there's an ellie that's having a good nap in the back. You see there, Seb? There's one lying down completely. So it's not just the owl that we've got our elephants that are also around. You know, just getting up now. We decided, mom's dust bathing, that's why. You can't lie down when you're being covered in sand. So not only do we have an owl on a kill, we've got elephants in the background, and not just elephants, our short trunk herd as well. So wonderful to see, and it's such a special sighting this. I'm so impressed that we managed to come across this owl. It is really once in a lifetime that we're going to see it feeding at this proximity. We're right next to it, and there's not even a bit of foliage in front of it, which is very, very special. So I'm super excited, and you can hear some baboons also around. They seem to be excited about the owl too at this stage. Very cool. So owl above, elephants below. Doesn't get much better for a Friday afternoon, and like I said, it seems as though everybody's in feeding mode. LK, are you wondering if there's a reason for its pink eyelids? LK, as far as I know, no, there isn't a reason. You might find it's some part of being able to see one another in this foliage. You know, it's dense, thick, deep foliage, and these guys can actually camouflage very well, and maybe when they close their eyes, they can see one another. But I haven't read anything that tends to suggest there's a real reason that they have pink eyelids and that there is a definitive use for them. So maybe there'll be some study that will be done on it eventually. It might be a visual cue to others to be able to spot them, but no, I have no idea whatsoever. It also looks as though, even though they've got pink eyelids, that there's no feathering on those eyelids, so maybe it's just that has something to do with it, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. But look at that big eye. You see how large their eye is? So you can see that. Was that a tasty and yummy? Look at that. That's like when you have your favorite meal and you're just absolutely savoring the taste. That was what just happened with our owl. Our owl looked as though it was loving that last morsel as it swallowed it down. But we are not going to get better visuals of an owl than what we have right now. This is absolutely amazing. Dina, you say what a lovely combination of sightings. Well, Dina, indeed. It's an incredible actual day that we've had so far. It just seems as though action has abounded from everywhere, and we've gone through a few quiet patches, and then this morning it was just chaos with the lions all over the place, and now this afternoon it just seems as though we've got such beautiful sightings. I'm sure the sighting of Nsuku is beautiful out in the open, and now our owl on his kill of his own, elephants down below. It doesn't really get much better than this, and I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. I hope all of you at home are as well. Now, I was talking about the beautiful Nsuku and the... It hasn't, Taylor. It's decided that it's time for a little nap before carrying on feeding. So it seems as though it's feeling a little bit full, and it's just going to sit and wait until the feeling passes, and it can then start feeding again. But this has got to be some of the best views possible of this owl. It is so relaxed. I mean, we're sitting no more than 10 meters from this owl, and it really is an incredible experience, because the owls generally tend to be a little bit nervous and tend to be quite flighty, but this particular individual is absolutely wonderful and providing us with the most beautiful sighting. I'm really so chuffed that we were able to spend time with an owl like this. It's not something, as I said just now, that we'll see every day, so very, very cool to see. And I would love to know where it hunted and what it grabbed, because it would be very interesting in terms of just a prey sort of knowledge as to what they're actually hunting in this particular section. But it's not going to get better than that. A full portrait of a Verreaux eagle owl as it looks towards us. Isn't that amazing? And you can see the beautiful facial disc, the light white around the eyes to help bring light in at night. big binocular vision to help with depth perception, which is very common on predatory birds or predatory animals. We know the lions have very similar facial structures. And then that massive beak. What a wonderful sighting this is. KJ, you're asking what the life expectancy is of a giant eagle, of a Verreaux eagle owl. I'm actually not sure, KJ, to be honest. We spend so little time with them. I've never actually looked up the life expectancy of a owl, but let's have a look. I've got a book here that maybe we can try and see if there isn't something inside here that tells us about it. I would imagine that it's a fairly long-lived bird. Given its size, you find a lot of the bigger sort of eagles and larger birds live for quite long, so 15, 20 years. But let's have a look and see. I'm just quickly trying to find it. But I'm actually not 100% sure, to be honest. It's one of those things that we don't really look at that often, so it's difficult to know exactly how long they live for. Just trying to find some sort of sign of it, but I can't see anything at this stage. I'll keep having a look through, and maybe I'll find it while we just look upon our beautiful owl. The Ellies are still around. We don't have a great visual of them at the moment, given that we moved slightly forward to get a better visual of our owl itself. So I don't really have great visual of them, but hopefully they're going to come up and start. Delrez, you're wondering if owls will hunt snakes. Well, Delrez, some would, I would imagine, but remember that a lot of the snakes don't move around too much at night because they know the chances of moving around at night means that they could potentially be prey and fall victim to lots of predators. There's leopard, there's lion, there's genets, there's civets, all of which, white-tailed mongoose, all of which will go after a snake, and so most of the snakes will seek refuge at night in some sort of a thicket or try and not spend too much of their time out. But owls have a very wide variety of food, particularly these giant eagle owls or Verreaux eagle owls. They, at the end of the day, will eat all kinds of things. I've seen them eating genets, I've seen them eating baby civets, seen them eating a baby baboon. So they go after mammals. I wouldn't see why they would be scared of going after a snake or two either. So they are definitely major predators of all kinds of different things, mostly mammals, but I wouldn't be surprised they will then go after snakes and reptiles as well. But I can't find anything as yet on our eagle owls, so I'll just have to look. Maybe some of you at home might know, #SafariLive, if you do know the life expectancy of a Verreaux eagle owl. It's really quite interesting. I honestly have never really thought of it that much, but I would imagine, my guess would be somewhere between 12 and 15 years. That's where I would go for, maybe even around 10, but I would somewhere around that area. Between 10 and 15 would be my sort of guess, somewhere around that sort of estimate. And I was really hoping it would start feeding again. It was just so interesting to watch it feed and to watch how the beak works. It's such an insight into something we so rarely see that it's worth spending some time and waiting. I know it's a bird, and I know a lot of people probably wouldn't worry too much, but for us this is such a special and a rare occurrence that it's worth sitting and worth enjoying and taking it in and watching how this bird goes about its business. It's not every day that we get a lesson and in such close proximity as to how they actually go about dismantling their prey items. What is very obvious is the way that it's eaten already. Is it's taken the innards out of that particular carcass. You can see it's opened up the cavity, pulled the innards out, and it's then feeding off all of the flesh around that. So they're not actually eating too much of the innards that I can see. I would expect them to eat, though, the heart and liver and all the nutritious organs, much like what lions would, but they might discard some things. I'm trying to look on the ground and see if there's anything there, but I don't see any signs of bits on the ground. It's just a few feathers that have floated down every now and then. So interesting just to see how they feed, but they definitely go abdomen first into that cavity and get rid of all of that, and then when we saw it feeding, it was pecking around the rib area of that bird. The thing about birds, and what's much easier than eating something like a genet or one of those small mammals, is that they're able to break the bones a lot easier. A bird's bones are very fragile. They're very light because obviously birds have got to fly. They can't have the heavy bone structure and dense bone structure that mammals have. They wouldn't be able to get off the ground, so they've got much denser much lighter bone structures, and that means that this owl will probably be able to break through most of that. And I would imagine it's going to consume pretty much everything, bar a few of the feathers, but I would think it would eat all the rest of it as it goes about its business. So if I tell you what, let's have a look at the ellies while our owl is having a hiatus in its feeding pattern. I'm just going to reposition for Seb so that we can watch our ellies dust bathe. And if our owl starts to reposition next, exposing those eyelids a little bit more, making them look a little bit more vibrant. It really is very pretty indeed. There we go. Oh, that certainly woke the owl up. Noisy neighbours. But you can see, like I say, there's just that patch of sunlight just on the eyes itself that is absolutely beautiful. Oh, a little grooming. Once the neighbours wake you up, you've got to kind of make sure that all the feathers are in good shape unless they come along. But how wonderful is this? Now, Megs, if you can just repeat that. Sorry, my earpiece fell out as you said that. I just heard something about flying. Kimberly, you want to know how far an owl can fly? Well, Kimberly, these owls that we see in this particular section don't fly far at all. They are short flyers. They don't have the wings that are designed for soaring and for flying long distances. Most of our owls here are territorial in a certain area, and so they'll just move from tree to tree, and it's just short little flaps as they go along. They're not birds that like to fly up in the sky and soar and cover massive amounts of ground. You'll find any of your territorial birds tend to be short flyers. So with these Verreaux eagle owls, they'll move up and down this Mulawati system and maybe short little flights out of the Mulawati, but definitely not very far at all. I was following a pair of spotted eagle owls the other day, and when they were flying in bursts of maybe, I would say, 50 meters at a time, and then they would land, and then 50 meters and land. So they weren't really going too far at all. Of course, they can cover more distance than that, but being big animals with quite short stubby wings, there's a lot of energy that's going to go into them flying, and so they would rather rest in places like this and then make those short bursts as they need to, as they follow prey around. But you can see the eyelids are pink because there's no feathers on there, so maybe the way that this skull is designed, the eyelids going back into the head, the feathers wear off, and that's why we end up with these very pink eyelids. It certainly makes them look quite dapper, doesn't it? Very, there we go, a little wink just for the ladies, just say, look at my beautiful pink eyelids. But I wonder what it's thinking. Paula, as I was saying just now, the owls are territorial, so no, they don't migrate. They are not moving in and out of this area. All of the owls that we see are resident here, so they have a area that they will hang about in, and so these Verreaux eagle owls, if we keep coming and checking here, we should see them pretty much all throughout the year. It's not easy to see them against sometimes these camouflage trees, and the way that their feathers work means that they do blend in very well, but you will find them from time to time in the same places as the year goes on. So they're not going to migrate, they're not going to fly anywhere out of this area. Our pearl-spotted barred, scops, white-faced, Verreaux, our grass, marsh, all of those owls are resident in their areas. They don't move in a sort of migratory circuit, which is very nice. So when you find owls, that's why we get so excited when we find owls like this, because it means that we've got owls for quite some time ahead that we can come and try and find, and to be able to show all of you. It's a lovely thing to have. Owls are one of my favorite birds, and because we see so little of them, to be able to sit like this in close proximity to one that's completely unfazed by us. Normally they would have flown. At this distance, you would never normally get this close to an owl, and it would have flown away, but this guy seems completely unfazed by us and is just relaxing and taking it very easy, which is very special indeed. Of course, I'm not loving the noisy neighbours at all. The elephants are breaking branches, and our poor owl is kind of looking around as if to say, I'm trying to get some sleep here. I was interrupted by lunch, but now I want to get a bit of a nap. And look at the gold colour on the wings now from the sun. Isn't that beautiful? And all the patterns that they've got. I love how intricately detailed feathers are. We often overlook it, particularly birds like this that appear to be more drab and more sort of, not colourful like the starlings, but there is so much detail in all of those feathers. It really is a wonderful study of how beautiful any bird actually is. Now, talking about beauty and golden light, I reckon that Nsuku this afternoon is going to be absolutely beautiful in his sea of grass. So let's jump across and see just how beautiful that shot is lining up to be.